Across the Clone Wars, the Confederacy of Independent Systems relied heavily on strike craft for versatility in space combat and close support during planetary invasions. The nation employed a variety of both manned and unmanned craft from various manufacturers across the Separatist Alliance, creating a unique and versatile force that proved a deadly challenge to the Republic Navy. The most ubiquitous and widely produced strike craft employed by the CIS is undoubtedly the Z-Sharian variable geometry vulture droid, constructed in precise religious rituals within the cathedral factories of Z-Char. The vulture droid is an unmanned short-range fighter, capable of extreme maneuvers that would prove lethal to any biological pilot. The fighters are relatively cheap to produce and employed in vast swarms, but are still better armed and more individually effective than the grand majority of swarm craft, including the later TIE fighters of the Galactic Empire. Vulture droids are also able to reconfigure themselves into light walking tanks, useful as infantry fighting vehicles on a planet's surface, or as surplus defense craft, magnetically clamped to the hull of Confederate warships. The missile hardpoints of vulture droids are used to carry Discord missiles loaded with buzz droids, adding further to the fighter's lethality in ship-to-ship combat. Designed by the Bactoid Armor Workshop and based on Z-Charian designs for the Vulture droid, the Hyena-class strike bomber is an unmanned, heavily armed attack platform carrying a sizable loadout of torpedoes, missiles, proton bombs, and laser cannons. The ship maintains the low production cost of the Vulture droid, but suffers from decreased maneuverability. Hyena bombers could be carried en masse and quickly repaired, allowing for a near-constant stream of bombing runs that could threaten even the largest warships. The bombers saw heavy use across the Clone Wars and played important roles in many of the most important battles, including the invasion of Ryloth and the Battle of Scipio. During ground attacks, the vessels were also able to convert into walk mode in the same manner as the Vulture droid, though this feature was used sparingly to protect the important bombers from harm. Adapted from the design of the Utapawan Porax 38 by the Bactoid Armor Workshop, the Rogue-class starfighter was more expensive and sophisticated than most Confederate fighter craft, being reserved for use by IG-100 Magna Guards and experienced Separatist pilots. The fighters were rarely seen outside of Confederate territory, and most often used for territorial defense. The onboard hyperdrive of the Rogue-class fighter gave the ship an advantage missing from most CIS vessels, allowing the craft to perform solo or squadron missions without the assistance of a warship. The arrival of Rogue-class fighters to a battle was often interpreted by the Republic as a sign that the Separatists had deployed their most elite pilots. Most often referred to simply as the Geonosian Starfighter, the Hoopla Parsa Tisk Shipwright's Nantex-class defense fighter was one of many contributions made by Geonosis to the Confederacy in the build-up to the Clone Wars. The fighter's interface systems are complex and configured specifically for Geonosian use, making them essentially impossible for non-Geonosian pilots to fly. The Nantex was frightfully quick and deadly in combat, able to rush through a formation and eliminate important targets, such as LAAT gunships, with ruthless efficiency. Unfortunately, the Confederate defeat at Geonosis in the opening moments of the Clone Wars and the failed subsequent rebellions by the Geonosian people left the CIS with only their original supply of Nantex-class fighters to deploy, resulting in their steady decline in use across the war. Designed and constructed by Fethan Otror Scalable Assemblies and sold to the Confederacy, the Belbalab 22 was a sturdy, heavy starfighter used in very limited numbers by the CIS. The fighter carried a Class 6 hyperdrive and a powerful arsenal of weapons, often able to face and defeat numerous Republic strike craft alone. Easily the most famous example of the Belbalab 22 was General Grievous's personal starfighter, the Soulless One. The General's fighter was heavily modified, with a powerful communication transceiver and improved hyperdrive range, allowing Grievous to remain mobile while monitoring fleet activities and delegating commands across the galaxy. Designed by the Colicoid Creation Nest and modelled after the skull features of a deadly beast native to Collar 4, the Tri-Fighter is one of the most effective unmanned fighter craft ever deployed. Used heavily in the final year of the Clone Wars, the ships were the smallest craft in service to either the Republic or Confederate navies, measuring only 5.4 meters in length. The ships carried the most advanced droid brains available to the CIS and were able to perform extremely advanced maneuvers in close-quarters dogfights. The small profile profile of the Tri-Fighter made it an infuriatingly difficult target for clone pilots, and the ship's acceleration allowed it to outrun every Republic strike craft in service, short of the Actis-class Jedi Interceptor. Unlike most strike craft used by the Confederacy, the Tri-Fighter was extremely expensive to produce, and proved to be a serious drain on the Separatist treasury during the final months of the war. In spite of this, the limited supply of Tri-Fighters that were deployed were brutally effective, gaining a fearful reputation among clone pilots.